How are you today? I'm joined by my colleague, Kat Cobell.
Hey, Will Murphy.
Welcome to this Thursday's Tech Talks. Let's re-explain. Tech Talks are about anything you would like to talk about, but we always choose a kickoff topic. So today's kickoff topic is about users and user profiles. And then, as we do every Tech Talks, the floor is open to any and all questions related to Grand MA2 software. Feel free to start typing your questions now so that when we get to the question and answer session, we have a pile of questions to start going through. You're welcome to ask questions about users and user profiles. You're welcome to ask questions about anything else, such as effects, setup, settings, etc., and we will certainly try to answer them. As has occurred in a couple of our other webinars, you've managed to stump us, so that's actually kind of fun. Try to stump us. So, Kat, should we get started?
Yeah, let's do this.
Okay. I hope you guys have enjoyed the opportunity to see my little tiny face in the corner. I understand it's a tad bit choppy as a result of streaming screen captured video, but it's just my mouth, so it is what it is. We're talking about users and user profiles as our kickoff topic. So we go to setup and we go to, under the console tab, users and user profiles. This confuses people a lot because they don't know if they're talking about users or user profiles. What is the difference? Well, I believe it's very, very easy to understand the difference. User profiles contain all the data. It's on the bottom here, all the data. What's in a user profile? Well, that's what I had on screen 2. So I'm going to move this to screen 3. We go back to screen 2. A user profile contains user-specific information about views, mask objects, MA2 objects, and cameras. Okay. What do I mean by objects? Well, these are all objects. If we go to screen 4 and we go to presets, we have position presets, drums, guitar, singer, we have color presets, gobo presets. These are referred to as objects as well, except these are global to the show file. So every user and user profile in the system will have access to position preset 2.1, color preset 4.11, which is white, red preset 4.14. User-specific objects are views, masks, MA2, and camera. So, if we look at our user list here, our user profiles, I have a user profile called Will and a user profile called Kat. User profile Will is what I'm logged in as right now, as you can see in the top right. Will has access to command view 23, mask 26, which is a live mask, MA2 1 through 12, and cameras, top, front view, etc. If Kat were to log in, her pools might be empty. I also created this login called student. If I log in as student, you'll notice on the tab here it says I'm logged in as student. Same pool as MA2 pool is empty. The mask pool is empty. The camera pool has only the predefined cameras. And if I draw the view pool, you'll notice this student user profile has no views either. Remember the color preset pool we were looking at earlier? All the color presets are still here. Okay, so that's the difference between user-specific, user profile-specific objects and show file-related objects. I'm currently logged in as a student, which I have enabled user rights. Okay, so now we're going to jump in and talk about why we have users and user profiles. So remember, user profiles are what actually contain the data. So we'll log in as Will and go back to setup. So we have users up top, we have user profiles at the bottom. I'll look at my user list here. I have user name Will, and it's referencing user profile Will. I have a user named Designer that is also referencing user profile Will. However, I've enabled user rights of none. Okay. What that means is that as Will is changing views and changing things in the programmer, any other station that's logged in as Designer will track all those changes and track the programmer changes. However, with user rights set to none, that station that's logged in as Designer has no way of hitting go, has no way of changing views, has no way of deleting, storing, doing anything except just looking at what Will is doing on another station. Okay. I can prove this to you. If we go back to screen 2, we'll go to, say we're going to grab these fixtures and we'll put them on the singer and we'll put them in red and we'll put a crosshatch gobo and we'll bring them to full. Okay. I have some red background information with red text. This is stuff that's in the programmer, okay, which is user profile Will, which is being accessed by username Will. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to log in as Cat. Cat's programmer is a little different. So logging in as user Cat, she's referencing user profile Cat. I don't see red text here and red background. I see white text and gray background. Okay, this is so that when Cat is programming, she's looking at her fixture sheet. She might be wondering why the alpha spots are in red, and now she can see, oh, gray background indicates another user has control of these sites in their programmer. Okay. So that's Cat. That's another user. She's programming at the same time as me. The other user that we had in our list here. Let's pop this up to the big screen so we can see it. This user Designer. Cat has her own user profile. This user Designer is referencing user profile Will, which means the Designer is referencing the programmer and the views of user profile Will. However, the Designer has no rights. So I'm going to log in as the Designer here. Notice in this Designer user profile, I have red information in the programmer because it's user profile Will. It's what Will is working on. You could see the selection actually matches up. So now the Designer can also see what fixtures Will has selected. Come over here. You try to change a preset, insufficient user rights. Okay. So that means the Designer could try to change things about these fixtures, but it's not going to work because he has no rights to do anything. So the Designer can follow along with view changes in Will's user profile, but the Designer isn't going to be able, that particular station isn't going to be able to affect Will's program or Will's presets or Will's queues, etc. Okay, we're going to log back in as Will because that's an administrator user account. And another one I've added to the list here is a user called Student. Now, a student could reference Will's user profile, but the student might only be responsible for playing back the show. Will is doing all the programming and storing stuff to queues, but he has a student working with him or he's mentoring somebody. And we want that person, that user, to be able to see what's going on in the show file, and we want to give him the rights to actually play back the show, but we don't want him necessarily affecting already stored data. So this particular student gets his own user profile so he can have his own views. However, his user rights are set to playback only. So if I log in as student, and if we come up here, you see we already looked at this particular bit where he has his own user objects. But if we go to the fixture sheet, just like as we saw in Cat's account, the student can see that another user in the system has control of some of this stuff in the programmer, but he is able to go to the playbacks and actually play back cues. And if we actually select executor 30, we'd actually see, tracking colors. So if I go, let's say if I try to open a color pool here, and if we tried to say delete this, you have insufficient rights. So the student can sit there and play back the show, be very helpful, but you don't have to worry about a novice user accidentally hitting the wrong buttons and messing up any data that you've already programmed. Now the last thing that you're going to want to manage is, if we have access denied, the student is not able to get into patch or change settings about the show file. We're going to go back to will. And the last thing is that, remember these user objects. I have all these great views that I've set up. I've got these wonderful masks. I've got these MA tricks, these cameras that I use all the time. And I'm hired to help out on a new show. Well, when I walk up to that show file, my user profile is not in there. And this is where you might want to export your user profile to your USB stick and then import it into another show. So right here, remember, user profiles contain the actual data. So that's what you want to carry around. And I'm going to click on will. I'm going to choose export. I'm going to go to my USB stick. It's going to export all these user objects. Plus, remember, there's this user tab. So all these settings that are under your user tab are also contained in your user profile. Okay, we'll save this. I'm going to load a new show. Let's say I'm working in theater. We'll load all that stuff. It defaults to the administrator user. I go to users and user profiles, and my user profile is not in here. So I go to the line that says new. I say import user profile from my USB stick. I import will. Okay, user profile is there. Now I need to create my user account. I'll just name this as Will, and I have to link it to the user profile that I imported. It's cool that I have admin rights. And I think, yeah, we have two languages. So basically, the German language gives you access to the German help manual. That's the only difference with languages. If any of you have been exposed to our .2, a little .2 console, .2 has 8 languages in it now, and it keeps growing and growing. So anyway, that's user profiles for you. Cool. Is there anything that I didn't cover, Kat?
Hey, can we talk about worlds? I feel like that kind of sort of ties together with our user profile and users.
Yeah, worlds are not something that are part of the user profile. Worlds are part of the show. But two users might want to limit their access on what they're programming. So if I use this particular show file as an example, worlds are something that are part of the show data, but I might, as will, only be responsible for programming these alpha spots. All right, so I'm going to select all these alpha spots, and I'm going to store a world. Okay, that's my alpha spots world. The alpha washes might be Cat's responsibility. So I'm going to store this as the washes. Now notice what happens. I'm in user account will right now. When I tap on alpha spots, my fixture sheet only shows me the alpha spots. What that means is that I have no access to do anything to any other fixtures that are in the show. Cat might log in and choose the world washes. So right now Cat she's in the full world, which means she has access to all fixtures, and now she's going to choose washes. So the benefit of this is that you limit access to the fixture data. Right now, if Cat were to type in delete sequence through, That's going to delete all the sequences. You might freak out, but it's not. What it's going to do is it's going to delete all the data, all the fixture data that she has access to. Since she only has access to the alpha wash data because she's in the washes world, it's going to delete all the wash data from all the sequences, but it's not going to touch any of the other data in the show file. Therefore, Will is not going to be angry that Cat accidentally deleted everything, because she actually didn't. And this becomes very common on the bigger shows where you have a lighting programmer and a video programmer. The lighting guy is going to log in and access the lighting world, and then the video guy is going to log in and put himself in the video world. They never stomp on each other. They never accidentally delete data that's not theirs, but they both can store the data to the same queues. Did I answer that one?
I think so.
Worlds are very helpful. It's also, I love to tell people, when you're really tired, 16-hour day, and you've already finished programming I don't want to delete this. So you already finished programming your alpha spots, create a world that doesn't give you access to the alpha spots so that you don't accidentally delete alpha spot data that's all in good shape because you're so tired. I love that as a tool just for myself. Worlds don't have to be about multiple users. They're really good for just you. And one other neat little trick, let's say 201 through 206, I've accidentally stored control data to a bunch of queues. You ever seen this happen? I've accidentally stored lamp off to 20 queues for some stupid reason. Well, check this out. When you select 6 fixtures and you activate data, you then store this to a world. And notice this world has a little marker at the bottom that's associated with the control preset type. And when I go into that world, now I've limited access to which fixtures and which attribute. And now what I'll do is I'll say delete sequence through, and it's going to delete the lamp control information of those 6 fixtures from all queues. Now be careful. That little trick can be dangerous because it will also delete queues that have no data in them at all. That's an unfortunate side effect of this. So if you guys use a lot of blank queues in your show that are just about command links and stuff, because those queues have no fixture data in them, this trick might not be so handy because it would delete those queues that have no data in them as well. P.S. That little handy trick, though, is something that I actually might do from the get-go to prevent me from ever accidentally adding control information to any of my queues. You know, I'll do fixture through, double-click my preset types for what I want to work on today, and store this to a world, and now I have no access to control. So there's no way I'm going to accidentally grab it. There's no way I'm going to accidentally store it. I only have access to the stuff that matters for my show. And you can do this per user. Maybe you want a student user to only have access to dimmer information. You can have that student enter a world that's dimmer only, which would be as simple as, let's see, clear all fixtures through. Just activate dimmer for all the fixtures, store the world, and now in that world you have access to all the fixtures but only the information. Very handy, cool little tool that many people think only applies to multiple users, and it doesn't. Totally useful for an individual user as well. Cool?
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to another question. Is there a quick way of auto-creating pools of all predefined macros and matrix as opposed to creating them one by one as needed?
Yeah, absolutely. Import, export. Let's see, if I open up clear screen here, I'll go look at all my macros. I'm actually delete all of these. Delete macro through, none of them exist. So it's like a new show. If you go to setup, import, export, import macros. There's a predefined list. You can hold the control key to select some of them. You can drag your mouse to select a bunch, or the fastest thing is just click the title bar It highlights all of them. Set the import to start at 1 or maybe 101, object pool, and import. It's going to import all these objects. Looks like it imported 206 of them, and all the predefined macros are there. So that exists for more than just the macro pool. You should have seen there's effects, so you could do all the predefined effects. You could do the masks, the MA2. Those are the 4 that have MA2 as a predefined. The masks, I believe the predefined is already, these 6 mask objects are actually already in your pool as permanently locked objects. If you've never noticed that before, you'll see the red lock. That means permanently locked. We force those to be there on every show all the time, as opposed to me manually locking object 11, which is a yellow lock, which means I have the option to unlock that. Cool?
Cool. Well, how do I manage all that stuff now that it's all in one giant clump there, Will?
You have to do a lot of moving. Probably seen this move command, move. You might do a range of stuff. So I, for example, might say move macro 1 through 205 at, say, 501, get out of the way. Okay. Now, we're on PC station, so you're really only looking at one screen at a time. But what I might do on a light, if I have a light or a full size, I will draw on my second screen, my middle screen. I'll scroll down to the section with all of these, and using move and my hands, I could be like, you know what? Oops. Go back to number 3. I really want move this through this. So those are the 5 align quick buttons. And I go to screen 2, and then I tap my finger on 17, and it moves that range there. So same thing, dimmer 0, I might this through this, go to screen 2, tap here. So that's how you can move things around, and if you want multiples of these, you can easily copy them through the same process. Copy this through this here. Now, why might that be helpful? It depends on how you lay out your macro pool. I don't know, I can draw a macro pool down the side, and I'm going to have to say move this here, and then I'll move this here. Now, are you noticing a trend here, Kat? Takes a while to set up your show, but you would save this to a view, right? So let's say you have this fixture sheet here. This is a really strange view. I would probably never use this view, but just for the example, I'd store this here, name it my macros, cool. This now is a view that's part of your user profile. You set this all up, okay? Now, from this point on, you can export your user profile and then import your user profile to another show and have these same arrangement of pools and stuff. Okay?
Cool. Just to let you guys know, this is your question time, so if you come up with any questions about anything, we are absolutely, totally, completely willing to answer them. Some of these seem to be a little bit loaded, though. I'm not sure if we want to get into anything effects related today, Will, or are we going to go ahead and make ourselves a fully dedicated webinar to effects?
Yeah, we are going to do a dedicated webinar for effects. We're going to probably jot down these effects questions and save those for an effects webinar in a few weeks. I see you're asking some questions about, let's see, if effects with 4 or 5 different colors, for example, Our effects engine does not handle that. You have to use chasers. That's why we have chasers for that. However, I don't know if you were on my last webinar. If you go to mappeel.com, you'll notice he has this handy tool where it automatically creates custom forms from existing presets. That these are not referencing the presets. He's just utilizing the data of the presets in an external program that automatically designs forms for multiple presets to go through. So it's a bit cumbersome. I've tried it once and I'm like, I'm just going to do chasers because it's easier, or just regular queue lists. There's no real huge advantage, in my opinion, of having using the existing effects engine. Now, having multi-step effects is on our wish list for sure. This is actually an interesting question. Guy wants to know a little bit about bitmap effects with a grid of 24 halogen bulbs. Bitmap effects current software are based on your stage view. So it's really not that hard if you've managed to set up your stage view. So if I look up a stage view here somewhere, why can't I find it? Stage view, yes, okay. So your 24 fixtures should be set up in a grid. So I can do that very simply right here. I will add a layer of dimmer fixtures, do this. Let's see, if I said it was 4x4, no, we'll do 5x5. So we'll say 25 and 25 fixtures. Cool. Got my 25 dimmers there. Go to the stage view. Fixture 501 through 525. Set up stage view. We go to the wizard. Go to matrix 2-dimensional. I want to put a 0.5 meter between each fixture. Columns of 5, rows of 5. Apply and close. It's laid those out, and using your encoders, it's a little easier to set this up. So the Z will be for the height, and we'll rotate this. Oops. We want to change this to group. As a whole group, we'll rotate it -90. So they're essentially facing towards us. Let's turn off all those other things. Cool. So fixture 501 through, that's all of those. And if you have a bitmap effect pool, you will select the fixtures and then store them to the bitmap effect object. Now, bitmap effects do not run from the pool themselves. You assign them to an executor. So I've gone to the list view, which is button executors 201 through 220. I'm going to assign this bitmap effect to 201. I would edit this. Zoom to fit. How it maps is based on what the fixtures, if the fixtures are visible in the camera. So now this is a nice zoomed in view of these fixtures. I'll use this zigzaggy thing. The mode is gray, and we want to use the tools so it's rotating left and right, and then we'll hit go. And you'll see it's basically doing the bitmap. Now, if I move, I'm going to say I'm going to move executor 201 here so you can see right now it's just a master fader. Sometimes I'll set this width to 2 so that I actually have a speed fader. So this actually speeds up the bitmap and this slows it down. You can easily link this to a master speed handle, as hopefully you saw our previous speed group webinar. I would set this to a speed group, for example, speed 1. So all my bitmap effects might reference a single master speed handle. And that's how bitmap effects work.
Cool. Can we talk about MA2?
MA2?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a cool tool.
You even have a nice little setup here, go ahead and grab some of those.
I just created a nice grid that can really showcase the use of MA2. MA2 is a selection tool, so it's a really great way to stage view. All of these show selected in yellow. A great way to see what is selected is using highlight, because highlight takes a fixture to open white that's currently selected. Down here is a MA2 button, single X. So, okay, this is like the next button. If you guys have ever used the next button, maybe you didn't realize that you've actually been using MA2 the whole time, okay? Now, let's say I want to select the odds and evens. Interleave, if you look up the definition of interleave, it's a way to alternate selection. So this is a way to go between odd and even selection based on your selection order. If I want to step through the first of every 3, the second of every 3, the third of every 3. If I want to do the first of every 4, the second of every 4, the third of every 4. It's just a selection tool. You also have the option to do blocks, so I can step through in blocks of 3 at a time. And I have this wing function. So if I do wings of 2, I can step through from the outer to the center. I can go to wings of 4, and the first 3 mirror the second 3, and the second 3 mirror the third 3, and the third 3 mirror the fourth 3. Okay. Now, what Kat was talking about is that that's a one-dimensional MA2 just on the X. If you actually have a grid of fixtures like I do right in front of me here, we select that grid of fixtures. We actually have two-dimensional matrix, so if I select just the X's, it's selecting these one at a time. If I set my interleave based on the number of columns, I think it is, on the X, I can select columns, or if I set this to off, I can select rows by going through on the single Y. So again, on the single Y, there we go. And you can actually hone in on a specific coordinate if you wanted to by doing single X and single Y. Now, where we get really powerful is this align group function. So I'm going to go back to Fixture 101 through 112 so we can look at it just based on a row of fixtures. Have you guys ever typed in at 10 through 100? You'll notice you get, I have to turn off highlight to actually see this. You'll notice you get a range of dimmer from left to right. If I want to do that same alignment based on 4 fixtures at a time, a group of 4 fixtures at a time, I say at 10 through 100 with a line group of 4 down here. And now I apply that range to 4 fixtures at a time. Really powerful stuff. It gets even more powerful if I have a little color picker here. If I do this based on color. So I'll put these at 100%, and I'll start with red on the top right. And if I choose align to left, I get a nice, let me reset the matrix before we start doing that. Start with red, and I say align to left. I drag my finger across the screen, and I get a rainbow of colors. Now, if I wanted that rainbow to repeat every 4 fixtures, I would do that same alignment based on maybe 4 fixtures at a time. And now, as I drag this across, you see the same colors repeat 4 times. Now, it's not so symmetrical, so I like to use the align to outer function. So we're going to say the outer of every 4 is going to be red, and then the inner of every 4 is going to be blue. Magical. If you've ever used @copy, you could always copy this stuff. And where it gets really neat is that you can do this on 2 dimensions at a time by using, remember we set our interleave to 5, and I want to align on groups 5 at a time, and I say at 10 through 100%, and we orbit a little bit. You'll see the bottom fixtures are at 10%, the top fixtures are at 100. And you could do the same thing from left to right. And I think, I don't remember if wings works for this or not. At 10 through 100? Yeah, it does. So if I say wings of 2, now my at 10 through 100 is actually mirrored from top to bottom, which is really freaking powerful. And if I didn't want it to go top to bottom, but I wanted it to go left to right, I'd say at 50 through 100, and did this do what I wanted to? I think so. So powerful stuff. I'd suggest you guys use this. By the way, if you don't want to bother with wings, you don't have to anymore, because we support the syntax at 50 through 100 through 50. And that basically does the same thing as mirroring. So I showed you guys a matrix pool earlier. Rather than having to screw around in this matrix pool all the time, if you have a custom kind of grid of fixtures like this, and it's common for you to choose interleave of 5, you can store this as a setting in your matrix pool. So when I store that, what ends up happening when I tap that, it does interleave of 5. Now, if I'm commonly doing wings of 2 across on the X, I set all 3 of these, and I store this to the matrix pool. And now when I reset, I can call all 3 at a time, or I can call just one of them. So there's predefined matrix for standard stuff like fixtures 1 through 12 across the top. But if you have some real custom stuff like a 5x5 grid, you store custom matrix. Cool?
Cool.
Fun stuff.
Talk about the other matrix, the matrix wizard you just used to make that grid there.
Oh, in the setup window?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just a stage setup tool. Based on the current fixtures you have selected. So, you know, if I select my whole rig and want to do something crazy, I can do a circle with, let's say, a radius of 10 meters by 5 meters, which really gives me an oval and sets them all very strange, in strange positions instead of
relative.
Yeah, I must be doing a relative calculation here. Let's reset everything, and we'll try this again. Let me see if I get this circle to work. There you go. So then they're all in this strange circle. So the radius starts. If I do the same radius, it should apply them all in a nice circle. And if you want to do, there's some way to do a helix. I messed around with this once. This is the fun stuff to play with. You guys should do this at home. You never know what you're going to come up with. Radius 50? I had done like a helix thing once, and it was really crazy. Yeah, this is a little bit more of a helix. Do like 1 and 15. And yeah, so the start radius is 1, and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger until it's at 15. And if we do this on the XZ plane, that's what I was looking for. I want to start at 0. We just want to do a circle 360 degrees. And now it gets all out of control. You can make stuff that wouldn't exist in a real plane, in real world, I feel like. So that's on the XY, XZ. So that's kind of the weird lights going up the stairs on the Z. You also have this MA2 function. You have to count do we have a fixture counter? We do now. As a predefined system variable, if I can find the command line, list var, selected fixture count 85. We've planned a webinar in the coming weeks is going to be about variables, by the way, so you guys should join that one as well. Let's see. What's the square root of 85? Anybody know? I can't remember these things. Where's my scientific calculator? It's almost 8. 8 times 8 is 64. We'll just do this. And you get a grid pattern. I don't know. I feel like this is pretty straightforward. So, look, help. You can also say help and tap on the blue title bar. And that doesn't bring you anywhere. Why doesn't that work? Oh, it probably doesn't like that I'm typing it in the command line. Help here. It takes you to the help manual. You go to the bottom and stage wizard. It explains move and circle and MA2 2D. Cool.
Cool.
By the way, I did see somebody's very interested in calibration. You got to play with it. A, B, C, and D. These are 4 points on the floor. X, Y, Z. These are coordinates on the floor. So think of an XY coordinate. A starts at minus 10 meters. Y is minus 10 meters. A is going to be, say, 10 meters from D. A is going to be 15 meters from B. You type all this in. These act like presets. So therefore, select all the fixtures, point them to the tape on the floor where A is, store it. Then do the same for B, then do the same for D, then do the same for C, and do calibration. Now, this takes a lot of work. What it does is it actually sets up your stage view automatically based on measuring 4 points on the floor, but you have to practice. It doesn't work so well with watch fixtures because you can't really hone in on getting them to point exactly at that piece of tape. By the way, you're at the mercy of the fixture profile. If the physical values of the fixture profile are backwards, all your lights will be under the stage instead of on top of the stage. You're also at the mercy of the calibration of the motors. So the console might think the fixture's at 85 degrees, but because of the motor calibration, it's actually at 90, so then the fixtures end up kind of weird. It's a helping tool to get you close. I personally recommend using Vectorworks, and take a look at our Vectorworks tutorial that's at aclighting.com to actually get all those fixtures in position. As for calibration, you got to play, you got to practice. Okay, but if you check out this Vectorworks tutorial, it helps you get all your Vectorworks details into the software.
Cool. We have a real quick question, actually, before we go. I know we're a little bit over time here, but how do you label executor pages?
The same way you label everything else. Label, say label group 1, label group 2, Will Murphy. Label page 1.
Yeah, how about where's the label located in the hard keys there, Will?
Will Murphy? It's under the assign key. Assign, label this. Label this Will Murphy 2. By the way, if you want to use the pool to label your pages, go to the pool objects, go to pages executor. Cat pointed out a lot, not a line. Assign to Gecko Bell. And now you've labeled your pages. And now you can go to pages based on name. Oh, it's so much fun. Page cat jumps me to page cat, and page Will Hey, what's that little asterisk at the end? It means I don't care what it ends with, as long as it starts with WILL, I'm going to go to it.
Good info. Good to know.
Well, you guys taken up another 45 minutes of wonderful Grand MA2 time. It was a pleasure talking to you. As usual, if we did not get to your question, email support@aclighting.com. And we'll be sending out sign up today for a few webinars in the coming weeks, so make sure you sign up for those. Give us your feedback. It's a pleasure. Happy programming.